Life doesn't stop when the workday ends. On True HR Beyond the Office, Shannon Clark Johnston tackles topics that affect our lives in and out of the workplace. With conversations on mental health, reinvention, self-empowerment, and more, we share actionable insights to inspire meaningful growth. Join us for candid insights and guidance to help you build resilience, create balance, and thrive with confidence in all areas of your life.
On today's episode of True HR Beyond the Office, we're talking about a feeling we have all experienced. You know how it is. The weekend wraps up and Sunday night rolls around, bringing a sense of dread or even the Sunday scaries, that familiar anxiety as Monday looms closer. For most of us, Mondays are seen as the toughest day of the week, with studies showing that 80% of people find Monday the most stressful day and over half feeling anxious about it on Sunday evening. But what if we could turn Monday into a day to look forward to instead of just something to get through? Our guest today, Kevin Cameron's here to share his insights on transforming our approach to the work week. Kevin's an executive coach and career strategist with a wealth of experience across private equity, nonprofit, and corporate sectors. Known for his unique blend of strategic insight and hands-on coaching, Kevin helps his leaders and professionals at all levels reach their full potential. With an MBA from Wilmington University and a background in talent strategy, Kevin brings both a practical and visionary approach to career development, making him a trusted advisor for today's workplace challenges. So with Kevin's help, let's see if we can rethink our approach to Mondays and say goodbye to the Monday blues. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you so much, Hannah. It's so nice to be here. And thanks for inviting me on the show.
Again, this is your second appearance.
It's my second, exactly. So I was not thrown off the first time. There's still time with this one.
Still time.
You don't know what could happen.
Well, seriously, Kevin, I know you've got a lot of wisdom, but liking Mondays, that is a huge lift. I don't know if you can do it, if you can convince us to like our Mondays, but maybe you could start by telling us what led you to this thought process you're going to share with us. Did you have a really bad Monday or two?
I mean, don't we all?
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about them, but we all have had a really bad Monday at some point.
Yes.
And maybe sometimes that's a Monday and a Tuesday, but we won't go there. We're only dealing with Mondays. So, that's a great question. Why are we so focused on this Monday thing and what's happening with Sunday nights? And, going as far back as to being a little kid and thinking about like all the schoolwork that I put off all day long on Sunday that needed to happen Sunday night while I was trying to watch football before getting to Monday. I don't think that changes as we get older in our careers. I think what happens is it's very hard to be in a job or a career where you actually love your Mondays. And that's a very sad concept for me because I, spent the majority of my career moving from being an accountant to a recruiter and then being a recruiter where I was helping people find opportunities and figure out what's next for them that paid the bills.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that ended up being somebody landing in a role where they were not really all that happy. And so what I found is my passion behind moving into coaching and spending all of my time there is it really sucks to hate Sunday night.
Yeah.
And hate Sunday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
To then get to a Monday where you're just like dragging yourself through the day. Right?
Before it even starts, you're just done. Yeah.
You've already played it all out in your head on the way to work or the way to your office and your house or wherever it may be, how terrible that day is going to be. And so really, that's a sad concept for me that people, and more than half of the population, by the way, has that feeling at some point or constantly to figure out like how do they get to some place where they actually like their job.
Well, do you think that it's always because of the job? Like, do you think it's just sort of this cultural norm, like we don't like Mondays because we have to get up at a certain time, or or in other words, do people who love their jobs also just naturally love their Mondays?
It's a combination of things. It's part one, and one of the things that we do to help people figure this out is we walk through essentially a list of things that they like and things that they don't like, and realizing that they're not going to have a job that doesn't have anything that they don't like, but it should at least help them to identify what they do like and get them out of that thought process of these are all the things I hate, and they're all on my schedule for Monday. Um, like how do you then have a good day if that's where you're living on Sunday, is
Right.
identifying all the things you hate. Um,
Is that because
so
people just put things off? Like there's it's Friday and they're like, okay, it's the weekend. I'll put it on my schedule for Monday, and then that makes Mondays even worse because now you've shifted everything to your point on Monday.
Well, I mean, how often do we put things on the corner of our desk because we don't want to deal with them? And then Friday comes along and somebody says, "Oh, I need this
Yep.
yesterday. Can you do it?" And you do it. And now that nest of bees has been sitting on the corner of your desk all weekend, and you know it's there. And so you're coming in to deal with the hornets that are flying around that you don't want to deal with. And to answer your question, it's not always the job.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the person that you're working with who drives you crazy. And they're either a colleague, or maybe they're a supervisor. Maybe you don't work well with them because of their work style. There's a lot of different components to it that can
Hmm.
drive you into that Sunday blue, of not wanting to head into a productive workday on a Monday
Well,
and finding reasons not to.
I think too, to your point, it can be the job. It can be how you've set up yourself on a personal level. Like just one example of probably a lot of different examples. How people get up and get right on their phones.
Mm,
Sometimes, I mean, just even seeing the news or just scrolling, it's sort of just, and that's any day of the week, really. But when you do it on a Monday morning and you're already, like you say, you have all these thoughts in your head about your
mm,
day, your job, your things you have to do. I'm sure there are different practical things people can do to set themselves up personally better,
mhm.
right?
So it's funny. It used to be driving to work on a Monday, pre we all had to work from home. The big treat was like, I'm gonna get coffee on the way in, and that'll be great. And so, that's like your kind of
Yeah.
treat on the way to going and
To
doing
doom.
yeah, going to the tunnel of doom.
Right.
Um, so, that is not mentioned as much as it used to be. I don't think that
Yeah.
coffee is as big of a deal. People go to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts or wherever they get their coffee, and they do that regularly throughout the day. So not a treat anymore. We made that into like a regular occurrence.
Mm.
Um, I think that the other part of it is, as we're also grappling with come back to work in the building, that commute feel is really yucky.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so,
How did we do that all the time
well,
before?
and it's so easy to get to a place where you're now complaining about the commute,
Yeah.
or your coffee, or the line at Starbucks, or whatever it may be. And so now you're going into an office already in that mindset of, this sucks
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to be here. And so, working on how do we take the things that you may actually enjoy, whether it be, a drink on the way in, not alcoholic, of course, but a drink on the way in, um, or something to eat on the way in, or kind of getting yourself ready to go into the office and not picking up your phone and scrolling the news as soon as you get out of bed, which is rarely something that's positive.
Right.
And so how do you get to that place where you have something positive to get in front of you right away? For
Mm-hmm.
some people, and I think this is something that I have noticed by working with folks over time, people who exercise first thing,
Mm-hmm.
tend to be happier going into work,
I hate those people.
because they checked it off their list, right? I
No,
mean,
I'm so
there's
jealous of those people.
there's well, they schedule it though. They work
Yeah.
it in their schedule. They just
Yeah.
say, this is what I do. And nothing's getting in the way of this, because if it does, you don't want to see me when I get there.
Right.
And so that's a big piece. And I mean, most really, I would say elite runners typically are people who are up early in the morning and they run, and then
Mm-hmm.
they go to do their thing. And everybody looks at them like, how do you have that much time on your hands that you can go run 3 million miles and then come in the office and work and be productive and not be tired and make it to the end of the day to do everything else
Mm-hmm.
that you have to do? Um, and it's really more of a mindset. But, you know, how do you figure out how to find that job is part of it, but also how do you figure out how to change your behavior so that
Mm-hmm.
you can appreciate that job? And so, one of the things I often think back on is, and we've had this conversation, not when I'm on all of the podcasts. But the conversation we've had is, remember the jobs that you had when you were in high school and college that were so fun,
Yeah.
but you didn't appreciate them when you had them
Yeah. And you had like
because,
friends there, and you all
oh
went out
yeah, it
together,
was
and it
so
was,
fun.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those jobs still exist as like adults. We just don't really understand that this actually isn't as terrible as we think it is. Part of it is our mindset. Part of it is you have a lot more to do on a daily basis, and that's not just at work. You can get to anybody pretty easily, whether it's text or phone or email or whatever it may be. And then you've got things that you do outside of work that usually happen after. And so responsibilities are off the
Yeah.
chain. How do you put all that together and make yourself some type of a list of things you know you'll get through? And for most, the starting point, and this is the cheat code and where we start with getting people out of this funk on Mondays, only do three things. I only want you to do three things.
3 things. I'm ready. Hit me.
Give me three things. Give me three things that you're like, these are priorities for me, and I'm going to get them done no matter what.
So you want 3 goals for the day.
Sure.
And that
And
could
that can
be,
be,
that just work, or is that personal and work?
it can be both. It
Okay.
can be both to get started. We're not going to stay at three forever, but we're
Mhm.
going to say there's three, because we are going to steal this from those super annoying people who get to work out before they get to the office. They already checked off one. They've got two left. They're
Right.
like halfway done with their day. Of course they feel good all day long. They're like
Right.
90%
Yeah, because
done
they're
by
like,
the
if I
time they
get
hit
nothing
lunch.
else done, I still did that.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So three things to start with, no more than that. And
Okay.
one of those three things is something that you don't like to do.
Mm.
And ideally, as we get more advanced with this, you're going to do the thing you really don't like first,
I was gonna ask you that.
because then everything gets easier as you move forward. So, it'd be an interesting science project to ask the people around you that drive you crazy, who work out in the morning, do you really like to work out?
Right.
They're all going to say this answer, I guarantee it. They're going to say, I do because of how I feel after. That
After.
doesn't mean they like doing it.
Right.
That just
Or
means they
getting up
like
to
knowing
do
it's
it.
done.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Well, and so
So,
I agree with you though, because I
mhm,
will often start with the easiest thing because I feel like then I'll get some momentum. And sometimes that happens, but a lot of times I sort of peter out and I
mhm,
avoid the thing that I don't want to do. But I
yep,
do a lot of other little things, which
mhm.
isn't bad, but it's not the big thing that I really need to do.
And because the little things typically spin into other little things. And
Yes.
usually little things are things that are easier
Yeah.
because they're actually filling the time space.
Hmm.
So you don't really have to get to that big nasty thing on the corner of the desk because you're really busy with all these little things.
Right. I'm so
And
busy.
so,
Oh, I'm so busy.
oh,
I'm
so
so busy.
busy, so busy. I have
Yeah.
so many text messages to read and Instagram reels to roll through. Like
Yeah.
you'll have all these little things to do, review thing, whatever it may be. You don't get to the big things. And if you think of it, if you use the analogy of like a roller coaster, right? If you're on the hill going up and you hear the chick, 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 chick as you're going up, that's the big thing right there. The rest of them, you're kind of coming down. Well, if the chick, chick, chick is a really small, tiny little hill, who has the motivation to get back on and go up higher? Like,
Hmm.
no.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, so putting it together to do the hard thing first. Again, I'm not saying start by doing the hard thing as one of your three, because you will hate me every day. But you start with three things. The following week, you put the hard thing first. The
Hmm.
following week, you go to five things. And depending on your personality, one of those five things could be something where you're meeting people, which, if you are introverted, that is a major mountain to climb. You are also going to be exhausted after you climb that mountain because peopling, as I call it, when you are an introvert, is really a lot of work and takes a lot out of you. So, those are pieces to keep together to help you to kind of move forward. Now, those are like the cheats, right? To have a successful Monday,
Hmm.
regardless of the job, you are not leaving. Maybe you're like 2 minutes away from having a full pension, whatever it may be, you have to stay.
So three
The,
things, just to be clear though, 3 things, they
mhm,
can be anything,
mhm.
personal or professional. You just want to make sure you're accomplishing 3 things in a day. And that you accomplished the 3 things that you set out to accomplish. Okay. So we're
Yes.
starting with 3, then we could move to 4
Not
and
forever.
5. Right. Okay.
Not forever.
Okay.
And you should have somebody who you can be accountable with
Mm-hmm.
for those 3 things. That could be a spouse, that could be a kid, that could be a pet. I don't care. Um, whatever it may be, somebody that you can say at the end of it, hey, I got all these 3 things done today, and that was my goal. And I'm excited about it, that I'm
Should we
moving
write them
forward.
down? Should we write those things down? Does
Oh,
that help?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And actually, a lot of times you can put them in your calendar as
Mm-hmm.
tasks, and then you just check them off, which checking them off is quite therapeutic. So
Yes, I agree. This is my love language. Writing lists, goal setting. I love this. Yes.
there's a really fun app that works on all platforms, Android and Apple, called All Lists. And you
All
can build
lists.
lists for anything, grocery lists, job lists, lists of things that annoy you,
List of
whatever it may
lists.
be. You can
Yeah.
make lists of lists. But you can check them off, and when you check them off, it puts this nice line through them.
Yes,
And
the
you
line.
can then uncheck it, and it puts it back in if it's something that you have to do repeatedly.
Oh, I just have
So,
to tell you on that
mhm,
note, I do write things down still. I have a
mhm,
planner that is well known. So I haven't gone like, you know, techno yet with my list
mhm,
because I do like the satisfaction of the written check mark. And it's an illness that's been passed down to me from my father who used to cross, probably still does actually, I think he still does, cross things off on his list with a ruler so that the ruler was
wow.
there and the line went right through the thing. Yes. So I'm into a check mark. But I suppose for purposes of what we're talking about, um, it doesn't really matter if you use an app, you write it down. You just have to document, right? Because I think
So,
it's because
yes.
it's more likely to get done and then also for you to feel good about it getting done.
And if your list item is dependent on other people and you have the app version,
Yeah.
you can share that. And then they
Oh,
know, oh, they did their part, so now I need to do mine.
okay.
Or I'm doing my part. I know you can see this. You should go do this now in case you have somebody who is not prescribing to the 3 things.
Right.
So yeah, so that does help quite a bit because you can share back and forth. Groceries are great for that. You can run them across all kinds of different things. Um, but the the name of the game is yes, track them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we don't need to track like we're not in theory, we're not going to a place where we're going to track how many tasks you completed for the month. We just want to know that you got something squared away today and complete so that on the really bad days where you still get things complete,
Mm-hmm.
and you still had a tough day, you can at least look back at it and say, at least I knocked those off. I have those
Mm-hmm.
to thank to be complete for the day, and I can feel good about that. But that's the kind of the goal with the 3 things. Beyond there, though, there's the component of really kind of um, digging deeper into like the soul of the workday and
Mm-hmm.
getting to what do I like about this job I'm working on and what do I not. And what's interesting about that is I find it also in college students who are at the point where they're thinking, okay, what's next for me? I
Mm-hmm.
now have college debt. I can be on my parents' benefits till I'm 26. They don't seem as excited about that as I am, and they also don't seem excited about me moving back home. So, those pieces in terms of what's next comes back to thinking about the experiences that you have on a day-to-day now that you enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about what the people around you perceive you as enjoying, which is a really important question to ask because oftentimes we will convince ourselves, I really like this.
Yeah.
But when you listen to your own audio, you don't like it. Like you spend more time
Right.
talking about not liking it.
Don't you think too sometimes, I know I fell into this trap at one point in my career. Just because you're good at it doesn't mean you should do it. It doesn't mean you like it. It doesn't mean you have to do it. And it's like you could be good at something and it's
Mhm,
just not your dream, right? Like, and I think starting out in your career, if you're good at something, you get praise for it. You're like, oh,
mhm,
I guess this is my thing. But
mhm,
at the end of the day, it might be something that doesn't really excite you, make
mm.
you happy, engage you.
There's also a compensation component to that, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you're good at something and you're getting bonuses,
Yes.
or you're making money that you couldn't possibly make doing this other thing that you really are passionate about,
Right.
now what?
Yeah.
And so that is exactly a very tricky spot to be in because you can end up staying
Yep.
in this little space where you can't get out.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, what happens is you're making money that is great for when you started, but is not so great for when you've been in this role for 10 years,
Right.
and it's the only thing you know. And the organization you're working for may not be viewing this as we're going to develop you and build out your skills. They may be looking at it as this is easy for you. You know, we can depend on you. It's always perfect. So why would we mess with that? We just
Right.
want you to stay there and do what you're
And
doing.
you get stuck. Well, and I
Hmm.
think just kind of going in the direction where I was gonna go with you on this is it's nice to create your goals and
Yep.
start to think about, okay, what aspects of this role do I like that I'm gonna maybe prioritize in a day to make it feel the Monday feel and other days of the week better. But as we know, no matter what level you're at, you always have a boss, right? And so you
Mm.
always have someone who's ready to, right? Kind of come in there and just blow your whole day up. And you
Hmm.
have it perfectly planned and you have these things. And I know a lot of people have difficulty with that. I guess you'd call it adaptability, being flexible. And it
Hmm.
happens to some people more than others. And I think that having mastery and control over your day is a big thing for a lot of people to get job satisfaction. So how when we have this list of three goals and we start increasing it and we're looking at these factors that we like, we're trying to, create a day that's engaging, but someone blows it up. What do we do? Because that's going to make a really crummy Monday, right?
Good point. And you're not going to walk back to your boss and say, you know what, I have my three things. I'm really sorry.
So I
Tomorrow I
was
only have
listening
one
to
so
this
far, so I'll add
podcast.
it in.
Yeah.
Hmm.
This podcast told me to have three things. I just can't get to what you're
I'm
asking.
really sorry. Call Kevin. He said three's plenty. We're
It's got
good.
Kevin Cameron. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. So obviously you're not going to say, no, I can't handle that right now. But where I think there is huge opportunity, regardless of what experience level you are, where you are in the organization, is there's a communication factor that we're missing. And that communication factor really is understanding why your day was blown up by your supervisor, because probably their day was blown up by their supervisor.
Right.
And so understanding, like, hey, we're in this together. I want to help you, and I want to make sure that we're getting to the right place here. So this obviously we have, a code red going on right now, and we need to figure this out and put it back together or build it or whatever.
Right.
What is the intention? What's more importantly, the best question to ask is, what is your goal in having me do this right now? Because if you know that, then it could be that skill you have that you're just really good at and it's easy, and
Mm.
that's why they came to you. Or it could be that it's a stretch goal for you and they're like, wow, this is a great opportunity for you to learn. But
Right.
ask the question. And so often, I have somebody right now I'm working with who is so fun to work with, but they have somebody that they are on a team with that essentially is like literally just like dropping bombs. Like that's
Yeah.
what they do. Okay.
Yeah.
Something happens in their world, personal, professional, whatever it may be, and they bring the bombs out and they just start dropping them everywhere. And everybody's running to
Yeah.
get away. Nobody is stopping and saying,
Why are we doing
tell
it?
me, tell me more.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Tell me more is a really effective way to understand like why. Because while there's nothing as frustrating as having your three things and having somebody blow it up by bringing in some new project, you know what's even more frustrating is when you blow up your three things for their priority and they don't need that until 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
They just wanted you to know about it, right?
Right.
So ask the question, be able to communicate around what's the goal, what's the intention, tell me what you need this to look like, fill me in, give me every piece of
Yeah.
information you can on what this should be so that I know and I'm not working on something that is not going to add value to your day. Um,
Yeah, and I think too that can happen with like your colleagues and people that you don't necessarily report to, right? And they
mhm,
have an emergency, so it's your emergency, and so
yep.
um, I think creating boundaries. I mean, you could still ask them the same questions, right? Like,
Hmm.
what is this about? And you want to be a
Hmm.
helpful kind of collaborator, but
Hmm.
creating boundaries. Yes, I can do that for you. I can get it to you at the end of the week, or whatever the case may be, and sort of still trying to maintain that um, boundaries and control over your day and how your day is going to go if you can. But to your point, it's sort of saying if you can't, and you can't because it's your boss, at least understand why you're doing it. At least understand like the goal of like their goal and potentially the timing of it and how you might be able to work with it better.
And pause.
Yeah.
Pause. Take a breath. Don't take a sigh. That's how we get terminated.
Yeah.
Take a breath and and then and then, you know, give it the space to be able to ask the question so that it's not passive aggressive.
Right.
It's not like venting. It's just, okay, you've shared everything you need to share. I just need to know a little bit more so I can move
Right.
forward with what you need to do. Um, Sometimes that pause also gives that person the opportunity to think about, why am I asking you to do this right now in a fire drill?
Right. Or make it more clear and go, oh no,
Mm,
I didn't mean
mm-hmm,
that today or
mm-hmm,
whatever it is.
mm-hmm,
Yeah. And you're making me think of something that I sort of touched on earlier. Sometimes yes, it's the job. Sometimes the job just
mm-hmm,
doesn't fit, but sometimes it's like that kind of thing where everywhere you go, there you are, and like you're at a different job and the same thing's happening. And I think it's important to look at yourself. How are you handling interruptions? How are you handling these? Because if you
mm,
have the same like you said, if you sigh or you're just like, or
mm-hmm,
whatever, no matter what job you're at, even if it's a job you love, that's not going to go over well. And I have to say, you talked about the commute. I remember thinking that my commute for many, many years was like the biggest part of my stress. And then COVID came, and then different work arrangements came, and I found that yes, it is stressful, but I don't think it's the main source.
mm-hmm.
Because again, everywhere you go, there you are. It's the same sort of thing, and I really had to look at that. So, how do you think that plays into how people respond to these interruptions, or how they even go about planning their day in general? Their style. How much does that play into it?
So this has changed dramatically over the last 20 years
Yeah,
because it used to be that you walked out of the office and wouldn't hear from
right.
anybody,
You had snow
and
days.
that was it.
Remember when you had
You had
snow
snow
days?
days. Yeah, you
Yeah,
had snow days. You had newspaper ads. You had all kinds of things. Um, the, what has changed is that you're responsible to answer. I mean, 24 hours is actually a long time at this point.
mm-hmm.
It's still, I think, acceptable in most circles, but it's a long time. Um, and how quickly we jump from email to phone to text. And once you're at text level, you basically have signed up to say, I will get back to you at any point in time, any day, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
That's where you go, right?
I'm available.
Um, yeah, all the time. And so, how do you stop that type of disruption in your day where somebody is texting you and you're in a meeting, for example, and
Mm-hmm.
they're coming at you with what they need? Um, is a very challenging
Yeah.
space in the world of work today. So, and especially when you have multiple generations, multiple different communication styles, and multiple different levels of experience in terms of the organization. So, again, coming back to, your personal shield is to pause.
Mm-hmm.
We, as a society, we don't think before we speak.
Mm.
Somebody asks us something or says something, and we're like, bang, here, how fast can I get my answer?
Right.
So they're actually also not listening
Or they're
to the
assuming, they're making
question.
assumptions of what's
Right.
going on. Right.
There's there we're all guilty of this. We're preparing our response before they even get the conversation out. So there's no listening, and it's how fast I can respond. And really, for myself personally, and coaching other people and coaching myself, one of the most effective tools I found is really pause.
Yeah.
You don't have to respond the second there's air to respond with. What you should do is think about what you're going to respond with.
Mm-hmm.
And realizing, as you made the point just now, if you've had multiple roles that have all ended up with you being in a similar situation,
Mm-hmm.
that's probably not the multiple roles fault.
Right.
That's probably a skill that you have learned, honed, and developed, which may be positive or may not be. But pausing is going to force you to think about how you're going to respond, what experiences you can draw upon,
Mm.
and how you can best solve the issue. So having somebody come in and bring you a new trauma, um, really the best way to handle that is to understand again, like what's the intention, what's the goal, where are we going here, and also knowing that you only have three things, and you should be able to get three things done before lunch.
So it sort of sounds like you're saying it's a combination of setting yourself up for success with the three
Mhm,
things, four things, five things, but
mhm,
also checking in with yourself on how you're responding, how you're communicating, how you're reacting to bumps in the day that we know
mhm,
are inevitable and probably
mhm,
more inevitable on Mondays because
mhm,
everyone's freaking out on Mondays. So it's
mhm.
this sort of behavioral and practical piece that need to come together. Is that right?
It is, yes. And it's the example I would also use in that context would be pick somebody that you don't typically work well with. Somebody that they open their mouth and you're already like, I don't like what they're going to say. I don't know
Right.
what it's going to be, but I don't like it.
This guy.
Uh, yeah, exactly. Oh, great. Kevin's here again. So, you know, pick a person like that. And when they engage with you in a conversation and they say something or they ask you something, you are 100% going to come back with the normal response you would make. It's going to be in your head before they're even finished talking.
Yeah.
Pause. Go to the second one. What's the next one that you could respond with? Is it the same or is it different? And what does it sound like when you say it? And frankly, have less of an answer for them, but more of a question.
Yes.
So,
Question.
so, when you respond back with the answer immediately, you're training them like an animal to be like, I have a question, here's the answer. I have a question, here's the answer. If you come back with a question, they're less likely to drop bombs all over you
Mm.
because they have to answer more questions
Mhm.
and they have to be prepared. And they can't just drop it in your lap and run knowing you're going to fix it.
Mhm.
So I'm a huge advocate of pause, think about the first answer, think about the second answer, and then figure out where the answer should really come from. But not giving them all the knowledge that you have in the whole world, and instead asking the question about what they're really looking for is a much more effective tool when it comes to that. And a much more effective tool to get back to your three.
It's really interesting because we have another episode about difficult conversations, and
Mm,
it's very similar. This was a therapist, very similar information. It was like it's a whole technique. I don't want to spoil it for people that haven't listened to it, but it's a technique in which you going into a difficult conversation, you sort of do this process, and it's all about
mhm,
pausing, and it's also about asking questions in the moment. And I
mhm,
think that you're 100% right. And I think the reason people don't ask more questions is because there's this assumption we always have to have answers. And so people are like, well, I can't ask a question. I'm going to look stupid, or I already know what they want, and whatever the case may be. But questions are almost always a good idea. I mean, there may be some scenarios where it's not, but like almost always a good idea to kind of, um, I don't know, even slow things down a bit and just kind of really get your clarity.
mhm.
So it's kind of interesting that it always seems to come back to how we communicate with one another.
Well, there was a saying in maybe the 80s, 90s, and probably before of when you assume you make an ass out of you and me, right? And
Yeah.
so that's strangely not said as much as it used to be,
Yeah.
but maybe it should come back. Um, but it's it's also fast. It's not even so much they don't want to look stupid by asking a question. It's also
Yeah. I
there's
want it.
a there's an understanding that you have to be fast. Everything has to be so fast.
Yeah,
And that doesn't mean it's right.
that's true. Yeah, we're just moving so quickly these
Mm,
days that it's like, come on, let's get on, let's move on to the next thing. So this is really good. So it's goal setting, prioritizing, sort of
mhm,
getting mastery over being more adaptable by asking questions, taking a pause. Um, I always kind of want to leave with a couple of tips for listeners. If you could give one or two insights just about what they could take away from this, and how to really turn around their Mondays and really every other day of the week.
mhm,
What would those be?
mhm. So. One, pay attention to how you feel throughout the day. And that should be connected to what your job is and also what your personal life is like. Um, there are a lot of people who might be ready for the end of their career, that retirement's not far away, that should be paying more attention to what they enjoy doing outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
To do some planning there. That's the first one. Second one, make sure you have some time for you.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that that time includes some type of movement, whether it's walking or running or biking. It doesn't matter. It can be inside or outside. Just do something for you that makes you breathe
Mm-hmm.
so you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And you will feel better because you'll sleep better, right? The next one is, you know, I do think I love the point you made early on of people getting up and looking at their phones.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a major problem, especially in our fast-paced environment where everybody's accessible and how fast can you get back, and it's like a contest with nobody. Um, Making sure that your first move in the morning is not to pick up your phone and check your email.
Mm-hmm.
Your first move in the morning should be something where you're allowed to get your feet underneath you and walk to the coffee or the kitchen or the tea or whatever it may be, and
Yeah.
actually wake up in a state that is not chaos.
Right.
And lastly, make your list before that day.
Yes.
Don't make the list when you get up. I promise you, you will fail. Make the list before that day. Whether it's the night before, the afternoon, it could be the morning, the day before, it's fine. But make your list before so that you know these were the priorities and I should still be able to get these priorities taken care of. And if I don't, then I do ding myself for not getting them taken care of.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I can't do anything else. It just means that these are a priority. I'm going to get them done because at the end of the week, I'm going to have a minimum of 21 things I knocked out that I needed to get knocked out. And if you have 21 tasks you're knocking out a week, that's not bad. That's
Yeah.
not bad.
I really like that advice about the night before, the day before. I
Mhm.
used to I try to sometimes still, but when I'm really on my game with planning, I'll at the end of every day plan for the next day. That's like part of that day is to plan for the next
Mhm.
day. And it doesn't take
Yep.
that long, right? And then, yes, if plans change, that's fine. But it almost like I feel helps me sleep better because you sort of get it onto paper, like all these things I have to do. You make sure you cover the important ones and then you can kind of feel good about it. Yeah, it may change the next day, but at least you
Mhm.
sort of have it out there and you can carry things over to the rest of the week if you need to. So,
I
great.
also find weekends planning,
Yeah.
just take an hour of your weekend to plan out your week is a huge advantage,
Yeah.
especially if you've got the Monday blues and you're working your way out of them. Just to feel like you're not going to be reacting all week long. There's
Yeah.
things that are going to happen that you're controlling.
I mean, we could probably do another episode on goal setting because I'm a big believer in sort of looking
Hmm.
at the year, looking at the month, breaking down the
Hmm.
day, or breaking down the week, breaking down the day, doing monthly sprints. That really helps
Hmm.
clarify. But that's a part two. Maybe next time we'll talk
Me
about
too.
that because I really feel like that's what we're talking about here is the
Yeah.
basis of it is setting good goals. Well,
Hmm.
thank you so much, Kevin, once
This was
again
fun.
for joining
Yeah.
us. This was fun. And before we wrap up, where can people find you?
So they can reach me at talentconnect.net. That is the company that I created a couple years ago. It has morphed from recruitment into coaching. And essentially, what I like to do is blend the things I know from being a recruiter and helping to find jobs for people into helping people find jobs for themselves
Yes,
that align with loving their Mondays.
I love
So
it.
find me there.
I love it. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you.
Great day. Thanks, everyone. We're out.
Thanks for tuning in to True HR Beyond the Office. We hope today's episode inspired new ways for you to find fulfillment and purpose in your personal and professional life. If you found value in our conversation, let's keep it going. Follow us on social media and visit us at ShannonClarkJohnston.com to explore free tools, resources, and more about our speaking, coaching, and consulting services.